days later, we get to see the same scene of Tomoko getting hit on by the guy in the car, and her responding by punching him. And we get the same introduction to her and Ryohei's relationship in this scene. Later that day, Josuke comes back from school and notices the police cars racing somewhere. He follows them to the Sunmart hostage situation, where his grandfather is helping to keep the crowd back. The scene plays out pretty much the same as it does in the original. The man threatens to hurt the girl if they don't let him get away, and he insults Josuke's hair as he makes his way over to his getaway vehicle. Josuke saves the girl, and Aqua Necklace reveals itself and tries to attack Josuke, before noticing Ryohei and going to attack him instead, since he was Angelo's jailer for several years before this. This is Josuke's first time ever encountering somebody who has a stand ability like himself, but still, he thinks quickly on his feet. He draws Aqua Necklace's attention away from him, and runs away to protect his grandfather by luring him. Angelo follows from a distance, while Aqua Necklace moves through the sewers. He knows Josuke is trying to distract him, but he's angry at him for disrupting the robbery, so he resolves to kill Josuke now and go after his family later. Josuke would rush home and barricade himself in his house, only to find his mom there. She asks him why he's in a hurry as she sips on her afternoon coffee, and Josuke notices Aqua Necklace inside her drink and about to kill her. Josuke saves her by pulling off the same donutting maneuver that he does in the original. And Tomoko, unaware of anything, leaves the house as it starts raining. Josuke and Angelo fight after she leaves, using the rain leaking through a hole in the roof that was already there to infiltrate various rooms. This fight would play out pretty similarly to how it does in the original, only that Jotaro's not there. Josuke breaks through the wall, Aqua Necklace infiltrates his body through the dehumidifier, Josuke gets him out through his swallowed glove. Eventually, Josuke traps him in the rock outside. Angela would tell him the same story about how a mysterious man in a school uniform used an arrow on him, granting him his stand ability that allowed him to escape execution in prison. He warns Josuke that if he kills him though, somebody else will come after him, and then attempts to strangle the little boy with the glove so that Josuke will release him. Josuke fully traps him into the rock to save the little boy's life. He notices the man in the white trench coat is still following and watching from a distance, but he leaves before Josuke can approach him again. By this point, Josuke is pretty weirded out by all the stuff that's been happening to him. He starts doing research in the school library on the potential murderer, who he is sure is connected to Angelo, and finds out that Morio has had an unusually high amount of murders and disappearances for the last 15 years, single-handedly driving up the national average. They have suddenly increased dramatically, though, in the last few months. Unnerved by this, Josuke goes home. On the way home, he thinks he sees somebody following him. Not the man in the white trench coat, though. It's some underclassman he doesn't recognize. But the underclassman goes the other direction when he looks. He sees something moving in one of the windows of a house that he passes, but when he looks again, there's nothing. Feeling like he's going crazy, he tries to get home as fast as he can. The underclassman, who is Koichi, comes back, this time meaning to speak to Josuke and approaches him from behind. Suddenly, an arrow is fired at Koichi from the window, and Josuke catches it with Crazy Diamond before it impales him, confirming to the man in the window that Josuke is indeed a stand user. The arrow still nicks Koichi right as Josuke catches it, and he runs away, terrified and feeling ill after that arrow strike. The guy in the window, Keicho, knows that Josuke killed Angelo, and he wants to kill Josuke now so that he won't be an interference to his plans. This is when we get introduced to Okuyasu Nijimura. It plays out mostly the same in the original, but instead this time he's sent out to retrieve the arrow rather than just keeping Josuke away from Koichi. He and Josuke fight, and it ends the same way with Okuyasu losing after getting hit in the face with the potted plants. During the fight, though, Keicho brings it into the house while Josuke is distracted, causing Josuke to pursue him into the house to retrieve it. Okuyasu falls into the doorway trap set by bad company, getting himself shot in the process, and Keicho leaving him to die for being an idiot. Josuke heals him, and then heads upstairs to go after Keicho. Josuke and Keicho have the same fight that they do normally, and it ends the same way with Josuke beating him. He makes the decision himself to go after the arrow to stop Keicho from creating more stand users. Basically, this whole arc plays out the same as it does in the original, except Koichi isn't there. But that doesn't matter since Koichi barely contributes anything to this fight anyway. After Keicho is beaten, Josuke goes upstairs to investigate and find the arrow. Josuke goes upstairs and finds the arrow hanging on the wall. He moves to go get it, but Okuyasu saves him from a trap set by bad company near it, repaying his debt to Josuke for saving his life, and making them even. He promises not to hinder Josuke anymore, secretly hoping that he'll take the arrow away so Keicho will stop hurting people with it. When he goes to get the arrow, though, Josuke finds the Nijimura father. Keicho comes out and explains the same story about their father that he does in the original, finishing with his resolve to find a stand user capable of killing him, and he will not allow anyone to steal the arrow so that he can let his father rest in peace. Josuke is moved by this, but he still resolves to stop Keicho like he does in the original, after he uses Crazy Diamond to fix the photo of the Nijimura family. Okuyasu also begs Keicho to stop, but Keicho refuses, denouncing Okuyasu as his brother. All of that is the same. Until, in the middle of the argument, Josuke notices somebody watching them from the ceiling window. Josuke froze. A shiver ran down his spine as he saw something in the corner of his vision, his eyes flicking upward. There, in the high ceiling window, a faint silhouette shifted, just barely visible in the dim light, watching.
You guys,
Josuke said, hand half raised.
Do you have any relatives here beside your dad?
Okuyasu looked over at Josuke, his hand still gripping the bow.
What? No, there's only the three of us.
Keicho and Okuyasu shifted their gazes to the window as well. No one was there. For just a moment, there was only silence. Josuke's heart began to pound. Then the air itself detonated. The glass above them shattered with a deafening crack, and a figure dropped into the room. A sudden streak of deathly pink and black, eyes glowing with cold precision as its hand snapped forward. Shards of wood, stone, and heat tore across the space, scattering them all like rag dolls. Josuke hit the floor hard, ears ringing.
What the hell is that?
Okuyasu had landed next to him, struggling to reply as the air had been knocked out of him. As Josuke sat up, he saw the figure advancing on Keicho, movements smooth, deliberate, and merciless. It was a stand. There was no doubt. Josuke looked up towards the ceiling where it had come from, but its user remained hidden, nowhere in sight. It reached its hand forward, conveying nothing but malicious intent. Straight for Keicho. Keicho's eyes widened, too slow to react. Suddenly, a malformed, grotesque shape threw itself forward, intercepting the blow. For the first time since Josuke saw him, there was no sorrow in his warped expression. Only desperation. The charge spread through the body of the creature that had once been the Nijimura father, tearing him apart piece by piece.
Dad?
Keicho's voice broke, the sound raw. He reached out uselessly, watching as the man he hated most shielded him with his life. The explosion ripped his father apart in slow, merciless waves, until there was nothing but smoke, his body blown away. Josuke and Okuyasu could only stare, horrified by what they had just seen. Okuyasu staggered to his feet first, the hand flaring into existence beside him.
You... what? Where's Dad?
Instead of answering, the stand grabbed a tangle of wires that was jutting out of the wall. It raised its left fist, thumb sticking up. Josuke realized what it was going to do.
Doc!
Josuke screamed. He had Crazy Diamond punch the ground. The chunks of wood that flew up were barely shaped into a protective barrier around him and Okuyasu as the stand detonated the electrical wiring overhead. Josuke grabbed Okuyasu's arm and threw both of them down to the ground. Sparks cascaded, then the entire ceiling burst in a chain of blasts. The room became an inferno. Josuke kept his eyes shut tight behind the barrier as smoke began to choke his lungs. Through the haze, the inhuman figure strode forward, calm, steady. Its hand reached down to the prize glinting on the floor, the arrow.
No!
Keicho roared. Josuke was surprised that he had survived the blast. Bad company erupted around him in a flurry of miniature soldiers, tanks, and helicopters. Gunfire lit the smoke like lightning, a storm of bullets peppering the enemy stand as missiles streaked through the air. It staggered, but only slightly. Its fists began to fly, punching away the miniature bullets with alarming speed.
Go!
Keicho shouted at them, his voice cracking with urgency.
Okuyasu! Josuke! Run while you still can!
Big bro!
Josuke's heart clenched. The stand's gaze turned upward. One helicopter had loosed its payload, a missile streaking through the air, but its hand snapped up, catching the tiny weapon mid-flight. Its grip tightened, and then pivoted with mechanical elegance. The missile sailed back towards its owner. It struck Keicho's throat, impaling him. A split second of silence, his eyes locked on his little brother, mouthing something to him. Then the explosion. Okuyasu's scream split the air. His brother's body vanished in fire and smoke, consumed before his eyes. The missile clattered to the floor, still intact, before vanishing like mist. Okuyasu's face twisted, horror and fury burning together. He pushed himself up on his shaking arms, burns covering most of his upper body, and staggered forward. The hand shimmered weakly at his right side. His teeth were grit so tight it looked like they might crack.
You bastard! Hal?
The stand turned to face him, its blood-red eyes cutting through the smoke. The arrow was clenched in its hand like a trophy. Then it spoke. Its voice seemed to echo through the wreckage.
Everyone who lays eyes on my stand, Killer Queen, dies. You two are no exception. You already know too much. You cannot be allowed to live.
It lunged, the arrow flashing in its grip, death descending. Josuke summoned Crazy Diamond, prepared to defend. Then in an instant, Josuke and Okuyasu vanished, their battered bodies blinking out of existence. Killer Queen skidded to a halt, snapping its head around. Confusion flickered across its empty gaze. Then a fist like steel smashed into its back, sending the stand reeling. Time seemed to snap, the cry tearing through the chaos as yet another figure emerged, unleashing a blow of righteous fury. From the shadows of the wreckage, another tall figure stepped forward, hat low, coat billowing in the burning air. The arrow gleamed in his hand.
Good grief.
He muttered, eyes hard as stone.